The ice cracked like brittle glass beneath the weight of the drilling platform. A deep, groaning sound echoed across the Antarctic wasteland as steam hissed from the borehole, the machinery fighting against ice that had been untouched for millions of years. Dr. Elias Vance barely felt the cold anymore. His entire focus was locked on the readout before him. The seismic data, the subsurface scans, the impossible anomaly buried 3 miles below the surface. "Jesus Christ," whispered Dr. Sonia Patel, standing beside him. Her fingers hovered over the monitor, eyes wide with disbelief. It's massive." Vance swallowed. "It's a structure. Not rock. Not ice. Metal. Impossible metal." The excavation was supposed to be a routine geological survey, just another expedition sponsored by the UN Space and Oceanic Exploration Initiative. But a week ago, ground-penetrating radar had revealed something they couldn't explain, an enormous, geometric formation buried beneath the ice. It wasn't natural. And it wasn't human. The drilling had been slow, cautious, controlled. But now, after days of effort, they had finally broken through. A deep sensor alarm blared. The platform shuddered. And then silence. A stillness that felt wrong. Then the radio crackled. Dr. Vance, the voice of Captain Derek Holloway, leader of the security team, came through, tense and clipped. "We have a problem." Vance exchanged a look with Patel before grabbing the comm. "What is it?" A pause. A flicker of static. Then, "The ice just collapsed?" Vance barely had time to process those words before the ground beneath them lurched violently. The platform tilted. Alarms screamed. Metal groaned. The entire drilling station was sinking. No, no, no. The world flipped. Vance barely had time to grab onto a railing before the platform gave way, plunging downward into the abyss. For a moment there was nothing but freefall. Then impact. Darkness. Vance woke to the sound of dripping water. His head pounded. His body ached. The air was thick. Not freezing. Warmer than it should have been. His eyes adjusted to the dim glow of emergency lights flickering on the ruined drilling platform around him. Debris was scattered everywhere. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes. The entire structure had crashed through the ice and landed in a cavern. No, not a cavern. A corridor. Dr. Vance. He turned. Patel was alive, pulling herself free from the wreckage. Holloway was already on his feet, scanning their surroundings with a flashlight. 3 other security personnel had survived. The rest. Vance forced himself to push the thought away. The air smelled ancient. The walls, smooth, metallic, stretched into the darkness, impossibly large, impossibly old. Patel placed a shaking hand on the surface. This shouldn't be here." A voice crackled over Holloway's radio. "This is base camp to Icefall team. What the hell just happened down there? We lost all telemetry." Holloway lifted the radio, voice tight. "We've broken through. The ice gave way. We're inside some kind of structure." Silence. Then base camp responded. "Repeat that?" Vance's breath came in short, sharp gasps. His mind raced. A structure. A corridor. Buried for millions of years beneath Antarctica. This was an archaeological discovery beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. And it wasn't abandoned. Because as the emergency lights flickered, something moved in the darkness. The darkness inside the alien structure wasn't empty. It watched them. Dr. Elias Vance clenched his jaw as he gripped his flashlight. The beam cut through the gloom, revealing walls of obsidian-black metal stretching into infinity. The air was too thick, too still. Patel's voice was barely a whisper. "This place is alive." Captain Holloway motioned for silence. His team, 3 surviving security officers, each armed with pulse rifles, moved ahead with military precision. The sound of boots against the floor echoed strangely, distorted, like the walls were listening. "Base camp, we need immediate extraction," Holloway said into his radio. Static hissed back. Then, "Can't signal breaking up?" Patel swallowed. "Something's interfering." A mechanical groan rumbled through the corridor. The floor beneath them vibrated. Vance's stomach twisted. "We need to keep moving." Holloway gave a sharp nod. "Stay close. Weapons ready." They pushed deeper into the unknown. The corridor opened into a vast chamber. Vance's breath caught. It was a control room. Towering consoles of alien design lined the walls, covered in symbols that pulsed with faint, rhythmic light. In the center of the room stood a massive structure, a monolithic slab of shimmering black material, smooth and seamless. A stasis pod. Holloway's team fanned out, weapons raised. Patel's hands trembled as she approached one of the consoles. The alien symbols shifted beneath her gaze, rearranging themselves, as if reacting to her presence. "This technology," she whispered. "It's still functioning." Holloway's grip tightened on his rifle. "Dr. Vance, is this a ship?" Vance exhaled slowly. "I don't know. But whatever it is, it's still awake." Then Patel touched the console. The chamber came alive. The pod hissed. A web of luminous veins ignited across its surface. A low, guttural hum vibrated through the chamber. The walls pulsed. "Patel, what did you do?" Vance shouted. She stumbled back. I didn't." The pod split open. A blast of frigid air swept through the room. The fog cleared. And something stepped out. It wasn't human. 8 feet tall. Elongated limbs. Skin like liquid obsidian, shifting and reforming with every movement. Its face was smooth, featureless, except for 2 deep-set pits of glowing white. It turned its head slowly. Watching them, Holloway didn't hesitate. "Contact!" His team opened fire. The bullets never landed. The creature moved. One moment it was in front of them. The next, it folded, shifting through space like a living shadow. A soldier screamed as it reappeared behind him, its elongated hand piercing his chest. Vance barely registered the horror. "Run!" They bolted. Another soldier went down, pulled into the darkness. Patel stumbled, and Vance grabbed her, dragging her forward as Holloway fired desperately behind them. The walls shifted. The corridor wasn't the same as before. It was changing, leading them deeper inside. The ship, or whatever this was alive. And it wasn't letting them leave. They burst into another chamber, doors sealing shut behind them. The screaming stopped. Silence. Vance and Patel collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. Holloway stood, rifle trembling in his hands. Only one of his men had made it. "We're trapped," Patel choked out. "It's toying with us?" A deep voice resonated through the chamber. Not from the walls. From inside their minds. "You have awakened us." The air vibrated. The shadows swirled. Vance's blood ran cold. What are you?" The voice came again, layered, ancient. "We are the first. We are the last. And we have waited long enough." The walls began to glow. Symbols burned across the floor, shifting into something readable. A single message appeared before them. A warning. The war never ended. And now, neither will you. The ship shuddered. Something had activated. Something that would change Earth forever. The room trembled around them. The symbols on the walls pulsed in a rhythmic pattern, like a heartbeat. Holloway tightened his grip on his rifle, sweat beading on his forehead. "We need to get the hell out of here." Vance wasn't listening. His eyes were locked on the glowing message. "The war never ended." "What war?" he whispered. The alien voice responded, reverberating in their skulls. "The war you inherited. The war you will die in." Then the floor dropped beneath them. They were falling. Not down, not up, through. The darkness swallowed them whole, yet they could see flashes of memories, of worlds burned, of titanic war machines ripping through civilizations. A fleet, blacker than space itself, spreading like a virus across galaxies. A race, taller, stronger, like the creature that had emerged from the pod, locked in an endless struggle against the abyss. And then, Earth. The planet sat like a fragile orb in the vision, untouched, unaware. And something was coming for it. They slammed into the ground. The visions stopped. Gasping, disoriented, they scrambled to their feet. They were in a new chamber, larger, ancient, its walls adorned with murals depicting a battle so vast it defied comprehension. The lone surviving soldier groaned, struggling to rise. Patel coughed, clutching her ribs. Holloway steadied himself, scanning the room with wild eyes. "What the hell was that?" he snapped. Vance staggered forward, his mind still reeling. A warning. Or a prophecy. A deep metallic thud echoed behind them. The doors were opening. Holloway raised his rifle. Patel stumbled backward. Vance just stared. Dozens of pods lined the walls. And they were waking up. A figure stepped forward. Taller than the first. Broad, armored, its dark flesh infused with glowing veins of silver. Its deep-set eyes burned with unreadable intelligence. It studied them for a long moment. Then it spoke. "You were not meant to find this place." Holloway didn't lower his weapon. "And yet here we are." The alien turned its gaze to Vance. "Do you understand what you have done?" Vance swallowed hard. We don't even know what this place is." The alien stepped closer. The air around it vibrated. "This is not a base. This is a tomb." Patel's breath hitched. "For what?" The alien's expression darkened. "Not what. Who?" The walls shimmered. New symbols appeared, this time a single image. A shape. A fleet. And at the center, a figure tall and jagged, its body like a living void. "The enemy." The alien spoke again. "We called them the Unmaking. We fought them across time and stars. We buried them here." Holloway frowned. "And they're dead, right?" The alien did not answer. Vance felt ice creep into his veins. "They're not, are they?" The alien finally spoke, voice low. "They have always been patient." Then the entire structure shook. A piercing screech tore through the chamber. The walls cracked. Pods shattered open. Not the armored warriors. Something else. Something wrong. From the dark emerged figures unlike the first alien. Thin, twisted, their limbs too long, their mouths stretched in frozen screams. Their flesh was dark and void-like, shifting as if trying to become something else. Holloway fired first. The rounds hit and passed through. The creatures flickered, reforming. One lunged, its arms snapping out like liquid tendrils. The lone soldier screamed as it wrapped around him, pulling him into itself. His body dissolved into nothing. "Run!" Vance yelled. They sprinted toward the exit as the tomb collapsed around them. But it was too late. The war had started again. The tunnels twisted and writhed around them, as if the very structure of the base was alive, reacting. Vance pushed forward, hauling Patel by the arm as the floor beneath them cracked. Behind them, Holloway fired wildly into the darkness, the flashes of gunfire illuminating the nightmare unfolding around them. The creatures, the Unmaking, were awake. They didn't move like living things. They flickered, shifting between moments, closing distances in impossible ways. Every time one of them moved, it was as if time itself fractured, skipping forward, warping reality around them. And worse, they were multiplying. The lone alien warrior fought savagely, its body moving in fluid, brutal arcs, but for every creature it struck down, two more emerged from the writhing void behind them. Patel sobbed. "We're not getting out?" "Yes, we are." Vance growled. The corridor ahead was caving in. The only way was forward. And then, the light. A blast of silver energy erupted down the corridor, ripping through the creatures, sending them screaming into the abyss. The team skidded to a halt. Another alien had appeared. Taller. More imposing. Its armor gleamed with an internal, pulsing power, and its eyes burned with something ancient, something furious. It raised a hand. The walls of the corridor sealed themselves, cutting off the howling swarm behind them. The team gasped for breath, backing away, weapons still raised. The alien studied them for a long moment, then turned its gaze to the lone surviving warrior, who dropped to one knee in deference. "They have already begun to consume this world," the new alien said, its voice resonating through their skulls. "You have doomed yourselves." Holloway spat blood, glaring. If we're already doomed, then why save us? The alien looked down at him, unreadable. Because I am not yet ready to let your species die. The chamber at the heart of the facility was vast. A control room, or what had once been one. Towering consoles hummed with residual energy, displaying alien data too complex to decipher. In the center, a gate. A towering, jagged construct, humming with the same sickening energy as the creatures that had attacked them. Patel gasped. Is that a portal? The lone warrior nodded. The wound through which they bleed? The leader's expression darkened. This should have never been found. Vance stepped forward, wiping sweat from his brow. Then shut it down. The alien's gaze shifted. You think it is that simple? Holloway scoffed. Blow it up. The alien turned to him slowly. Do you not understand? This is not a door. It is a scar in the fabric of your universe. It will not close. Patel's voice trembled. Then how do we stop it? The alien paused. We do not. The ground trembled. The unmaking were pushing through, the black tendrils of their existence slithering along the walls, distorting everything they touched. The alien leader turned to Vance. Your kind has been spared war for too long. But now you will understand. This is not a battle you can win. Vance clenched his fist. So what do we do? The alien gestured to the portal. You do what we did. You run. The words settled over them like ice. Holloway shook his head. No. No, screw that. We fight. The alien turned to him. You do not fight the abyss, human. You survive it? The portal flared. More were coming. Thousands. The ancient war had found Earth. Vance took a breath. If we don't stop them here, they'll reach the surface. They'll reach the planet. The alien leader's expression was unreadable. Then you must decide how much of your world you are willing to sacrifice. A desperate plan formed. The facility's core, an ancient power source, alien in design but volatile beyond comprehension, was still active. A detonation would not destroy the unmaking, but it would bury them. Holloway's voice was grim. We light the fuse and we run. Patel swallowed hard. If we don't make it out, we will. Vance turned to the aliens. Right? The leader hesitated, then nodded. You will be given one chance. Use it wisely. The charge was set. The walls were collapsing. The creatures were pouring through, their screams warping reality itself. They ran. Through tunnels collapsing into nothingness. Past horrors clawing at the edges of space and time. Toward the only chance they had. The exit loomed ahead. Holloway was the last to dive through, just as the explosion tore through the ancient facility. The mountain imploded. And then, silence. They awoke to the hum of a military transport. Above them, the sky. Real. Blue. Whole. They had made it. But as Vance looked to the horizon, his heart sank. A ripple in the sky. A faint, pulsing distortion. The unmaking weren't gone. They had left their mark. And Earth was no longer safe. The war had only just begun.